speeches may not do it for you, but they are also important so you can learn other things that you may not have had in mind. I just want to pay tribute to Nick for organizing this. I understand it's called the Inspiration Institute. I'm already inspired just listening to who is here. And I'm saying, yeah, no, we're joking, out there in Johannesburg thinking that we have it all covered. You guys are an inspiration. By just the things that you are doing, we are already halfway through the solutions. So I wanted to give yourself a round of applause. From manufacturing caskets to... But it's a serious business because death has become a very serious business. So they're already, cross-pollination here. And there's a reverend there who's selling life. Manufacturing caskets. It underlies the thing that says, at the end, we can't wait for government.
Yeah.
If you are waiting for government, there's, for those of you who read literature, there's some book or a play called Waiting for God. Waiting for God.
Waiting for God.
Yeah, so waiting for something that may not come. And forgive those who are Christians, and so we don't know. Nobody has come back to tell us whether it's true that this is it or this is not it, right? So what's important is to make sure what you have here works, and not think that you can lazy around but go to heaven somehow and it will be better there. Let's deal with what we understand here, even if we have faith and other things, right? So anyway, I wanted to pay tribute to Nick. I'm inspired already. One of the bottom line, you may think it's a cliche, but if you are an entrepreneur, you've got to be a go-getter. Otherwise, forget it. Nobody's going to bring some stuff on a silver platter to you, So I don't know many of you. And by the way, even Nick, I only met a few weeks ago because he's a go-getter. So I was in Devon here. I don't remember what I was doing here, but I was at the airport and he just walked to me and said, "Hey, you need to come back here." And he started telling me about his boys to men and what. I said, no, I'll come when you invite me. And I thought that would be the end. And not with Nick. So my line said, "Yeah, you need to be here on the 15th of January, whatever. And and I just need you to be here to talk to the entrepreneur." So thank you for taking that chance without knowing what I'm going to do here and say. I want to talk to you about three things because we don't have much time, and I would like to spend more time on the Q&A, right, about entrepreneurs. And the reason I was saying the two speakers have already covered it all is that my first point actually has to do with the combination of the two things that they have said. And it talks about context. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to understand your context. Right? You are not operating in glass ceiling somewhere or in isolation. You are operating in a context. And unfortunately, this offering context is the context of politics. As I just told you now and took it out of my mouth, that you gotta get involved in politics or politics will get involved with you. Right? So you can say, "Oh no, we don't want politics. I just want to make money." Tough, because that's going to affect you. Yesterday when Nick called me from the airport, I was making an example of what's happening in the city of Johannesburg. The mayor there, who's a friend of mine, is now ousted. Which means, and he's ousted for the second time. So between the time that she was ousted the last time and now, it means that there are some entrepreneurs who had business because of the kind of political party that's in power, isn't it? Now they must start looking for alternative places to eat from next week. Because there'll be a new mayor. Oh, this mayor from Al Jama. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, whether Al bottle stores will be closed or not. But it's a different matter altogether. But that context affects you as an entrepreneur. So you need to understand it. You can't just be in a box somewhere, not understanding what's going on. Because the way you're going to approach your business will also relate to what opportunities are placed in place by the people who are in power at the particular time. It's not irrelevant, right? If you are able to escape it, you'll be lucky, right? So you need to understand who's in power, what are their policies, how are they pursuing business, right? Another friend of mine was owed by the city of Johannesburg 700,000, and it was Christmas, and she had to pay people. and they wouldn't pay her because they needed her to pay something before they could release their money. Right? 700,000 is not a change. I don't care what sort of business you are running. It's not small change. You have to pay people, you could pay suppliers, and suppliers are hounding you, staff are crying, it's a mess. And you don't owe them a task. You finished your job, you submitted your reports, you've submitted your invoice, and you submitted your invoice in October. It's now December. Right? So now we write to the mayor and say, Mayor, please, man, your people are refusing to pay this entrepreneur. I asked her to write a letter to the mayor and say, the mayor, please, can you see what happens here? But because there was no genuine reason why she was not being paid, when the mayor then sent that inquiry to the department, she was paid within 2 days. 700,000 since October. They said, no, if you have not paid anybody, you can forget. I will put 10,000, and you are going to get 700,000. Please, can you put 10,000 under the table? So we're now in a context, right? So I'm sure now that the mayor is now ousted. They're gonna deal with her now. You say, yeah, when you're mayor, you had friends in high places. You got us to pay without you paying. You are out. Right? So unfortunately, that's what's gonna happen. I don't think it's different here in eThekwini.
Not the same.
Oh my God. Right?
Same story.
But you are to blame, right? Because I agree you are the ones who voted the guys. Yeah, most of you, because they are in power, it means that most of you, by extrapolation, you voted for the people who are there. So you are getting exactly what you deserve. Exactly, that's what you are getting what you deserve. Because these guys didn't start now. They have been doing this forever. In fact, one of your ex-mayors is standing trial for corruption of some 260 million rand. Previous mayor, yeah, and she's a woman of the cloth. By the way, she goes to Methodist church. But she stole so much money. I hope she used some of it for the priest there. So you are to blame, and I'm linking it to what the previous speaker has said, that you now got to get involved. And I'm saying you must be a politician. You must just be a citizen, an active citizen, and who knows who to hold accountable. So in your ward, right? I don't want to say, if you know your ward councillor, raise your hand. That's going to be pointless. I doubt very much, very many people know who their ward councillor is. So your ward councillor holds meetings, or is supposed to hold, according to the constitution, supposed to hold meetings at least once a month to tell you what they are doing to make your job easy as entrepreneurs, right? Because I'm not sure, I've not done carpentry, but I'm sure if you manufacture coffins, you need electricity, you may need water to wash them and what, I don't know. But you need certain municipal services for a simple business to happen, right? And so you are entitled to the answer from your ward councillor why there's no water for 3 days. You can't say no, because of the floods. I'm sure this is a new excuse here. No? It's because of COVID, because of the floods, because of the riots. No, right? Those things I'm sure can be dealt with. You need proper answers, right? So why I'm saying you've got yourself to blame is because if you don't get involved and you are only narrowly thinking about your own business and not the community around you, right? You are missing the context. That's the first thing I want to talk to you about. You are missing the context. Your context is political stability, right? So in order to have political stability, you need to be able to engender consciousness in your communities. In other words, you as somebody who's standing out with all the work that you are doing and you have described it here, you inspire other people in your community who otherwise are hopeless. Once they are inspired, they will be able to hold your leaders more accountable, because now they know what they're entitled to, they know their rights, but they also know their responsibilities. You are building a community that's stable, that's built, that's inspired. Your business will thrive better in that type of community. than a community that is gonna break your things, steal your things, because they're not inspired. There's hopelessness. There are no jobs. By the way, if you inspire the ward councillor to do something about the job situation, it means that they'll take more people off the streets and your business will thrive. The opposite of that is that you'll be able to install electric fences and hire guards and do all sorts of things that would otherwise be easily avoided if you build a better community. And there are many things. I can't tell you how to build a better community. You would know what is needed in your community. And I'm not, if I was talking to politicians, I would ask them a simple question to say, all right, if you say your constituency is Chatsworth, right, and you are so proud, say, this is my constituency. In fact, if you are a national MP, in fact, you even have an office called the constituency office. But when you ask that person, so tell me about your constituency, how many people are in Chatsworth? They don't know. Says, no, give it your constituency. The IEC knows that in this ward there are 10,000 people, and they can break it down for you. So many women, so many disabled people, so many. They can give you categories. Even tell you how many people are not employed. Right? That informs you what to do. So now let's leave the politicians, because that's always half the time going to be hopeless. But you can ask for the same information for your business, to be able to know that in this ward, so many people, I don't want to give an example about we have life insurance, or they don't work. Because if they don't work, it means they don't have money for premium. It means that you can forget about going there to try and find people to buy insurance, because these people don't work. So, they are looking for bread, not insurance. Yeah. So they are living something to make them live now, not something to make their families live when they are dead, because they don't have money to even pay that premium. Right? I'm just giving that as an example to say, to be aware of your context is important for your business. And you may think, no, this guy is telling us there's no time for these things. There is, because you got to think about how your business look like in 3 years. Part of why the statistics are telling us that most businesses, small businesses, die within the first 3 years, completely die in 5 years, and others don't even get to 5 years, right? Is because very few small businesses, and I'm talking to you here, understanding that we're in a band of small businesses. There may be others that are sort of bigger than others, doesn't matter, but the same principle applies. You've got to have a vision for your business beyond survival. You need to plant a seed for 2 or 3 years from now. That's when your business could start breaking even, making a profit. Right? So there's no quick fix to business. I don't know anybody here who can start and say, I started my business on day one, I made huge profits, and I'm already writing in a piano. No. It's going to take a bit of time so that you don't buy a piano on hire purchase. I don't understand who buys a piano on hire purchase. Yes, the car is 2.4 million, it's bigger than a bond, and you are driving it around, and then you stay in a flat. So mixed up priorities. So the context is going to be critical. Before I get off the context issue, how do you build communities? One of the biggest investments we can make is on skills. Right? And that will be the second big theme for today, capacity of the entrepreneur. Right? But what's interesting is, while you are building your own capacity, you can also build the capacity of the community. How many of you here take just one person to school? Just one in your community. Just one, I'm not asking you to form a big foundation like inspiration. No. Just your business, right? Are you able to take just one person to school? Right? And I'm giving you that challenge when you live here. I'm not asking you to go and form a big foundation, taking 100 people to school. Just one person from your own personal income. If you are able to take one person to school, right? Because they're going to come and say to the Minister of Education will come and tell you, these people are what we call a missing middle. So it means that they are not too poor to be hired, but they're not too rich either to get bursaries elsewhere. So they fall somewhere in the middle. And that's where you come in to build your community. Now, if you're a small business in a community of Umhlanga, for example, right, and it's known that you have once a year just taken one person and assisted them, right? You are creating an ambassador already for your business. Because that person, when they are sitting in a corner or they're with what are called the pack shops, people who are called pack shops, I don't know what you call it in German, who just are aimless, they don't have anything, they're just in the shop, waiting to see who comes in and out. They all gossip about you, say, hey, don't touch that one. You may think it's trivial, but actually, you are creating ambassadors for your business. And then if you look at this room, and then one person each has sent one person to school, you already have 100 people, right, who did not stand a chance, but stand a chance because you gave them that one little chance. Right? And you didn't have to sacrifice much, by the way. I don't drink much, but I understand that Blue Label is very expensive. Yeah, it's very expensive, I'm told. But if you give up Blue Label just for 1 week, you can actually send somebody to UNISA for a whole year. And that person, and you give them one condition, right? That's one. You say to them, when you become fine, you take one person to school. So you give them a condition to give another person a chance, and they give that person a condition to give another one a chance when they get fine. Do you see what will happen within a generation? How many people would have educated despite the poor policies of government, despite incompetence of government, despite corruption, despite all these things that we are always talking about. Right? So you use your context, identify your needs of your community, and that information is available, we just don't access it. And then you are building capacity for the community. Right? Now let's come to capacity of the entrepreneur. A lot of people go into business for survival. Let's be clear about it. It's not because they woke up and they were so very inspired and they said, I'm going to form this business. Well, they actually had other choices of doing very little and just getting a salary. So it's about survival, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not painting every one of you with the same brush. But we need to be clear that sometimes you ended up in business when you're not a business person, you're not an entrepreneur, you have no bone of business in you, but you just find yourself now, you have to survive. You have to be an entrepreneur to survive. I started my own business when I got out of university, and I had never had a job in my life. And I got married while I was still on campus. Don't ask me what happened to that marriage. And a baby was coming and I needed any job, right? So I decided, no, I've been an SRC president for 2 terms, a vice president of the SRC, a leader in international youth organizations and what. Why don't I create a course where I just tell people how to be a leader? And I charge them for it. And that became my first business. And I came here in DUT, and I got the SRC to give me a gig to train the other SRC members. And I took people that I worked with over the years and said, no, come, you are going to be the facilitator. I thought you used to be a treasurer, so just tell them how to be a treasurer. Don't say anything complicated, just give them your experience. That was a full business, and it ran for 10 years. Okay? And it paid the rent. It paid the rent because I was not joking. I charged proper. Nick will tell you, I told him, I'm going to cancel you if you don't pay. Very hard-nosed. You need to be hard-nosed for business to happen. But you see now, I had to think on my feet, what are my skills? How can I translate them into business? Right? But I had no education about how to be a teacher or a facilitator or all of those things. So I could have done one of two things. I could have just carried on as a survival thing or empower myself to be able to be better. That's the capacity of the entrepreneur. Right? How you enter into a business must not define how you exit. You can enter and then empower yourself while you are in. And that has to do with also with careers. I'm a big believer, right, in what we call in-service training, because not all of us are born with all the skills that you need to survive. Right? When I got, so after I was doing this training, so I realized, hey, this is not going to take me very far. So I applied for a job. My first job was to be a spokesman of a minister. But I had not studied communications. I was just armed with a law degree and the gift of the gap. And I said, no, if they just give me this interview, I'm going to deal with them. And then they gave me this interview, fresh from university and so on. And the first question was, but you've never worked. This is a top position. I mean, to be a spokesman minister in 1998, you'd earn anything like 15,000 a month, which was a big thing. It was a big money at the time. But it's your first job. So they say, but you have never worked. How do we know that you can do a full day's work? So I had to convince them that in fact I have worked. I said, to be an SRC president is a very big job, very big job. You sit in an office and you have 20 people to manage and so on. I was also an international president of young people in England and New York. So I had to make, and I said, I don't know how many of your staff here have been to New York. So you've got to be able to sell yourself, right? But don't believe too much in your own propaganda. Once you get that job, now the real job happens of empowering yourself, right? Fast forward to having a PhD in media studies. So it's like I didn't sit around and say, yeah, I managed to get in, so I'm gonna just relax. But rather empower myself. So ask yourself, what capacity are you adding onto you? There are many courses. These days you can't get away with just studying biblical studies and thinking that's going to be fine. Sorry, Pastor. You understand? Yeah, you got to do something that is going to be useful for the economy, right? And that's going to be useful for your own success. So that issue of capacity of the entrepreneur is quite key. There are many courses, and I'm not saying you need some, you can even go to UCT. Anywhere, there's a course that says how to run a business, how to comply, how to manage staff. There are many courses, development programs. Some of them are short learning programs. You don't need to go and do an MBA necessarily. Not all of us are gifted in the regard of doing a master's. In fact, some of you, if you try and do a master's, they'll tell you, sorry, but you failed your honors so bad, or you passed your honors with a Madonna score. You can't be accepted in master's. Be happy you even have an honors, So it doesn't follow that everybody will become a professor or a PhD or whatever, right? But there are many routes to capacitating yourself than a formal degree. There are informal degrees, just that people don't do them because they say, no, these are expensive. But actually, it's more expensive not to have capacity because you're going to have to retrench those people one day. Your business may be shut down because you don't know what you're doing or it fails. Right? So capacity for entrepreneurship is key. I'm mentioning this will still come. The professors has painted you a context, right, of a political context. That political context, you need to use it to know how to navigate your own situation. Because if you wait for government to deliver all these things I'm talking about, it will be years before you succeed. Right? You're going to have to do what we call brighten the corner where you are. Right? And it just starts with this capacity. Right? By the way, there are also bursaries and scholarships and so. So the excuse that says, I can't study because it's too expensive doesn't wash. Right? By the way, there are certain workshops also that are actually offered for free. If you look at website of some of these organizations that are funders, like NEF, IGC, CEDA, etc. They host many workshops because they remember, they've got a ticker box that they did hold some workshops to help you. So sometimes they won't even charge you a cent to do it. So it's a question of you now being awake and aware of your situation. What is available, what are capacity issues offered, where, by who, when. Okay? So that's the first. The second thing that I want you to talk about, the capacity of the entrepreneur. The last part I want to talk about is the state of the enterprise. What is the state of your business? Right? I know a lot of entrepreneurs who run businesses, and because those businesses may not be consistent in the income that they bring, etc., they then fall behind on things like simple things like tax clearance. Right? And then when they have to bid, then that's when they start running around now. You say, oh my God, we don't have a tax clearance, whatnot. And then they have to bribe somebody. At SARS to say, hey man, can't you help me? Here is 2,000. But they owe, meantime they owe 100,000 to SARS. But they pay somebody the 3,000 to falsify their tax clearance. That's going to catch up with you one day. And when it catches up, it's going to be very bad for you. So the state of your business, or what you call the state of the enterprise. Is your enterprise in order? Is your enterprise above the water? Do you do the right things? Have you hired your people properly? Do you pay tax on behalf of your employees? What is called pay as you earn. Those things may sound bureaucratic, especially if you're running a business that's a one-man show or two-man show, because you think those are not important because you're so filled with your business, right? They are important even if you are a sole owner or a sole director of the business. You know, I know that none of you with your business card, when a business card says managing director, it doesn't say with 5 staff. Just managing director. They say, hey, this person is a big person. And there's nobody who works in the garage, nobody reports to them, they don't even go to work, you know. But don't despair, because all of us start like that. Right? And as I was saying to you, all of us, sometimes you get into a business where it was an unlikely situation, but you need to make it work. And part of making it work is to make sure the state of your enterprise is in order. Right? Like simple things like a shareholders agreement. So when I started my business, after dabbling into politics, nobody would hire me. Right? I'm fast forwarding now to 2010. Nobody would hire me and say, hey, this guy is too controversial. So I had to start my own business. Went to the UK for a few weeks to get into a business, or what is called International Business Institute. They give you a certificate where you can now be able to liaise with 4,000 entrepreneurs around the world, and you can do work from your study, but in any country. So I come back home with this certificate, and then I say, hey, I now need shareholders now. Remember, the business is nothing, there's zero. So I now say, right, I'm going to sell 45% of my company for 2 million rand. Of a company that doesn't exist. Okay? I go and convince the first person and I say, listen, this is going to be big. 4,000 consultants around the world. It's going to be big. Please give me 2 million. I'm summarizing it. It's not as simple as I'm telling you, but it happened. I get 2 million in the account, 45%. And I say, no, I want to sell some more. If I can just sell some more. As long as I have 51%, I go to another group of friends. Twin brothers who are my friends. I said, guys, give me 300,000 and I will give you 10%. They agree after 2 or 3 months of talking. So now I've got my capital of 2.3 million, which got finished in a year. Okay, because I've still paid myself a good salary as CEO. I need to earn 100,000 a month. Because that's what I was used to incorporate. You know, those of you who are incorporate and want to switch to business, I had 1 or 2 side hustles. Good. You need to start the side hustle to test whether it's working before you jump ship. Because it's very interesting and nice to say, I'm going to go on my own. You know, people say, I'm going to go it on my own. You better have 6 months salary up front first before that rings even nice, that you're going to go on your own. Because in 6 months, you'll have nothing. And you'll have to retrench the staff and what have you. Remember now, the 2 3 finished, but I still owe those people. Because remember, they have shares and they are looking for their return. Right? So if the state of an enterprise is so bad, it means that there's no shareholders agreement that says how are these people going to get their investment back. You understand? There's no constitution of the company. There is no, simple documents like what is called levels of authority. If you are CEO, you can't just sign anything without going to your board. Oh, by the way, they may not even have a board in some institutions. So there used to be something called the CC. I think they've cancelled that. Where it's a close corporation, you are just a law unto yourself. If you want your business to be taken seriously, you must take it seriously first yourself. Don't take your business seriously, nobody's gonna take it seriously. Right? And you may do things in the dark for a while, but one day somebody's gonna say, oh, we've got this big opportunity of 10 million rand, please apply. Oh, by the way, can we have your financials of the last 3 years? What? Financial? What are you talking about? Yeah, no, we just want to see how you spend your money. And then when they see the bank statement, it says chicken licking, Nando's, cigarette, not even a full box, what do you call loose draw. And they say, hey, what? You're running a sponsor shop when I was right? So you must think about it. As you swipe that card of the business for petrol when it's not supposed to be like that, or to buy your mother bread, you must know you're in trouble. You must pay yourself a salary. Right? If you're running a business and you have a proper state of the enterprise, you must say, salary. I pay myself a salary. You must pay yourself first. Otherwise, you won't be able to take care of your stuff. So you say 100,000 salary. But I'm just giving an example of what I paid myself. I'm not saying pay yourself what you don't have. Don't pay yourself with an overdraft, no. But be able to pay yourself a proper salary. That avoids you buying be shoes with the company card, or be shared here, or hosting a party. No, right? You are paying yourself a salary, then you can do whatever you want with your salary. When on your bank statement come, or your financials come, you say salaries and it is an amount. You don't show all the things that you are up to on Friday night. You understand? And then it will have other line items. Investors who are serious are looking for those kind of things. What is the state of your enterprise? Right? So those are a few things that I thought I would share with you. Firstly, the context. The prophet has covered the context of our politics, energy, and all of those things. But you can contribute to changing that context. Right? Whether it be at the local level or provincial level or even national level. National level, when the elections come, you must think again about how you're going to vote. Right? So it's important that this context helps you to get back your agency of how to determine your own future. So that's the first part. Secondly, capacity of the entrepreneur. Don't be satisfied with what you have now. There are lots of short courses, short learning programs, formal programs, and so on, that in fact are not expensive. In fact, you can budget for them. In fact, you can get others, you can get scholarships and all of that. Right? But at the same time, with the little that you have, you must take from that little and help someone else with the condition that they'll help another. That way, in a generation time, we have educated half of this nation, even or in spite of the incompetence that someone talked about here of government and whatever. Then finally, be aware of the state of your enterprise. Don't take it for granted. There are people here who don't even have books. I know the books is an old concept. You know, you've got computer, but they don't have books of the company. If you ask them, "Oh, sorry, can we see your books? How much do you have?" Right? Remember, if you are running a 1 or 2 man show, you know exactly how much is in your bank account. I think they said this in contact. Or a net bank will send you to say you have a balance of minus. Net bank sends you a message say, "We see you are over your limit. Please deposit immediately to avoid further action from our side." So it's not a surprise, but you've got to keep proper books Invest in, and you don't have to go and get a chartered accountant to run your books. You could even get you could get a student, a clever student who's a master student who understands the books better than you, because there are many interpreters who don't know what is a balance sheet. How much do I have? How much do I owe? Or when they see a balance in the account, they get confused. If you have 50,000 in your account, but you have debts of 150,000, it means you actually have minus 50,000. You don't even need to have maths to understand that it's not your money. You understand? If you have a credit card that has a limit of 150, it's not money, it's what you are going to owe if you spend it. Right? So the state of the enterprise is key, guys. You can have as wonderful a business as you like. It's all going to go up in flames if you do not do proper things, and they are not complicated. Right? Just record things, keep receipts, and so on. Because when you try to audit your books after a year and you don't know head or tail of your receipt book, you're going to be in trouble, and you're going to get what is called a qualified audit. I know that some of you have big mouths. When they say municipality content qualified, you get into a trance. But where now you can't even get your qualified audit just for your own finances, your own alone. Where you know exactly how much you are receiving, and then you spend twice that in credit. Then you get surprised when you are broke. Right? So I want to wish you well. I'm very inspired by the things you're already doing. But all of us at some point just need a refresh. I'm doing these things that are well, but if I can just take care of 1, 2, 3, make sure that I do things in order, I'll be a better entrepreneur. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, but all the best with your work and what you're doing. And once again, congratulations, Nick, for putting this together. I hope it will be one of many to come to empower each other as entrepreneurs in this town. Thank you very much.